Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so you touched on it before. You got drafted by Columbus. You're now officially a part of an MLS team. You're kind of like first I made it moment here for MLS. How did it feel to finally be drafted after having to go through the draft process the first time and not having your name called for a team? Was it like a triumphant moment? Was it like a, or was it more so like a I'm ready now kind of moment?
Um, well, anybody who knows me knows that I never really took enough time to really think about anything I did while I played. And so I probably thought about it for about 2 seconds. And then my focus was, okay, how do I become the number one goalkeeper? Because they had Tom Prestis there at the time. And Tom, I think 2 years prior to Columbus, he had won an MLS Cup in DC. So I knew I had, very stiff competition. And I knew, Greg had told me 100%, you're going in as the number 2. So there was no illusions in my mind that I was going to play. But the way my mind always worked was, okay, let's see how long it takes me. And so I probably thought about it, to answer your question. I probably thought about it for about 2 seconds. Yeah, great. I got drafted. Now on to the next thing.
That's really interesting. Just from I'm kind of different. I'm close to that, but not like that. But I was the same way. I walked on to Alfred because I was tiny and nobody ever wanted to come look at me. So I had to go and basically beg the coach to let me go play for him. Yeah. And like I said, when I finally got that email, like, hey, all of you guys are on the team, it was like, oh, wow, I did it. But the same thing, your switch goes off and okay, now I got to work to stay on the team. Now I got to work to make sure that I can get on the field at some point. I'm a goalkeeper 4 when I started. And then make sure you can, continue to push, even like we've been talking about, right? Push yourself through being number 4, seeing 15 minutes a season and trying to, but staying focused on that stuff. It's pretty cool. Yeah. So MLS starts off pretty good for you. Yeah. Eastern Conference first place finish, little deep playoff run, a US Open Cup. How did it feel to lift a trophy year 1? You get in there and you're already off to winning ways.
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty cool. It was, it was really nice it was my first trophy. And like I said, the year before I had lost in the A-League finals. So it was my first trophy and, it was pretty amazing to be able to share it with guys that I became very close with, like Brian Mazanoff. And, he was probably, I know this, he's probably my best friend there. And one of the guys that took me under his wing and taught me how to be a good pro, and what it looked like. We had plenty of them there, Mazanoff, Brian McBride, a guy named Mark Clark, Mike Lapper. We had a very older team and there were only a few of us young kids there. So, we had plenty of examples to learn from. But, I remember sharing it. And again, when you're young, you don't understand certain things. I didn't understand how hard it was to win cups. I just thought that, every couple of years you're going to win a cup, if you're on a good team. But I remember sitting in the locker room afterwards with Maze and, he was crying, and I'm kind of like, all right, I'm excited and I'm happy and we're all happy. But, and then I realized like, I remember thinking about like how much he's put into not just the crew career, but his entire career, and all his ankle issues that he had prior to the World Cup. And, all of that probably built up for this guy. And this was his first trophy, so I just remember that, and I it's still in my mind of him just sitting in there with it and just the joy on his face, and I remember saying to myself, like, I never want to take this for granted, and so, that was something that was really special to me, to realize that it is hard. It is very hard to win cups, regardless if it was the Open Cup and there's only a handful of games, or if it's an MLS Cup or Supporters Shield, or they're all special for their own reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I was very curious about is if you could comment on the something that's different between whether it be the training atmosphere, the locker room, the connections you made on a team with a winning culture like this one, versus, let's say, I think in Worcester you were kind of struggling your first year a little bit. What was he at?
First of all, it's Worcester.
Worcester.
That's how
Long
they
Island.
say it. Worcester, Mass.
Worcester, Mass.
But
I
it's
got
spelled
a buddy who went to UMass Dental, and he's starting to talk like that now.
But it's spelled the way you said it, but it's Worcester, Mass.
Worcester, Mass.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because I look at all three MLS teams I played for, and the ones that were successful, or the successful years at places, there was an atmosphere in the locker room where everybody was pulling in the same direction. The teammate more than the individual. It was like that in Columbus, and it was led by the senior players, McBrides and Masonoffs and guys like that. When I went to Chicago, same idea. CJ Browns, Chris Armises, guys like that leading the way, and you followed them. I mean, to this day, when I see Chris Armis, and I talk to Chris Armis on the phone, I still call him captain, because he was the best captain, hands down, I ever played for. I was just talking to him last week, and every time we either talk on the phone or I text him, I'm like, "Hey, Cap, how are you?" Because he just, from the day I got in there, I mean, I just was like, this is what a cap, like, it was unbelievable. Like, I get goosebumps still even thinking about some of the times playing with him. Just amazing. But the camaraderie, and when I was in Chicago, that first go round, like I didn't spend preseason with them. I spent preseason in Columbus. And so I got there like literally the week before the season started. So I really didn't know anybody and all that. And it took me a little time. But I thought one of the things that was really cool about that kind of 3-year period was we were all younger. We were all in our mid to late 20s. But we had this, group text, and it was really cool. Like if somebody said, "Hey, I'm going over here to eat dinner, at 7:00 tonight, if anyone wants to join," like 7, 8, 9, 10 guys would show up. Like everybody just wanted to be around each other, right? Like we had such a great group of guys, Chris Rolfe, Logan Paws, Justin Mapp, like such a great group of guys. And it's just that team camaraderie, that bonding, that, hey, we're all in it for a bigger purpose than ourselves, that makes you successful. And same idea when I went to San Jose. Again, a little different over there, because in San Jose, I mean, as you guys know, we were called the Bad News Bears for most of the time, and we were always the underdog, especially at that time, because LA was, they had Landon and Robbie Keane, and they were spending all this money. And then some guy named David Beckham decided to show up at some point. Like they were spending all this money, and here we are, up north that, didn't spend a lot. But we loved it. We loved that, hey, we're going to rain on your parade kind of, thing. And, we weren't pretty. We didn't play very pretty football at all. But, we wanted to kind of upset everybody, and we did. And we had we kind of had that same camaraderie in the locker room, Wando and Alan Gordon and Len Hart and Sammy Cronin and Jason Hernandez, like just a great group of guys. And again, wasn't attractive a lot of times, and I think back to Jason Hernandez, like one of my favorite defenders, and he loved blocking shots. Like he should have been a hockey player. Like he loved it. And I remember one game, like, I don't know how many he blocked, but I said, you know what? I told him, I said, you either need to play hockey or you need to play indoor soccer, because you get a bonus for every block you make. You realize that, right? I said, you're playing the wrong sport. He just started laughing. But just a great group of people that wanted to always be around each other. That for me makes a good locker room. Unfortunately, when I went back to Chicago the second time, right before I left the MLS and went to Indy 11, it was the total opposite. And, that was really hard for me, because my memories were of a very successful Chicago Fire. You think about those 3 years I was there, we were very close to not just winning Eastern conferences and getting to MLS Cups. We lost on penalty kicks in a Superliga final. Like, we were always just one little step away. But then when I went back, it was the opposite. It was, and I remember talking to Jeff Laurentowicz about it when I first got there, and he kind of filled me in on it. I was like, wow, it was tough, and everybody doing their own thing, and kind of, you're trying to pull everything together, but it's not working. And it's hard, and it's very draining, and day in and day out becomes draining when you can't bring everything together.
Right. It almost feels like a proper job than instead of something you're going to do because one, you enjoy it, but it's so much easier that way. But then it turned, they say if you do something you love, you never work a day in your life. That turned into proper work. You had to get yourself to go through it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, I love going in every day. I probably, especially towards the end of my career, I love training more than I love games. I still like games, but I like the preparation. I like preparing, Monday I'm doing this, Tuesday I'm doing this, Wednesday I'm doing this, kind of have that checklist. And then, Saturday was like the test, Saturday was your written exam, and, how did I do? Regardless of the score, for me, especially the older I got, it wasn't always about, did we win or did we lose? Now, obviously I wanted to win every game, but it was more about, did I do what I could do? And did I handle the situations I was put in properly?
Right.
And for me, that was about the preparation that I had leading into the game. So that's the way I kind of looked at it, especially on some of the years that I was on a team that we had tough years. So you had a lot more losses. So you try to forget those, and you try to focus more on my preparation and, was my game good because of my preparation, right? Did I do what I could?
Right. And at that point you have a starting block at that point. Okay, this area is fixed. I've done what I can do. Now how can I influence maybe my center back to read something a little bit better, my outside back to make a run, right? It's a starting point.
Correct. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I had a question. So maybe this is because my background was in such an individualistic sport, and tennis is like, there's not really a lot of teamwork that goes on there. When you have that really strong chemistry outside of the field, when you're going out to restaurants and everybody's showing up and having a good time together, how does that benefit translate onto the field? Is it more so like you have a better understanding of the guys you play with? Is it like now that I know you better, I'm gonna fight even harder for you and try to do better for you?
Yeah, you understand the person, you understand the individual, right? So if I understand more about, one of my buddies, and we're hanging out more, I've got his back, right? I'm going to have his back even more, and so it just brought us together, like a band of brothers. And it's very important, regardless of what sport, it's very important in any team sport to have that camaraderie, now, I'm not going to sit here and say that everybody on every team got along, because there were guys that I played with that did a fantastic job playing, and I could count on them in every game, but I didn't care for them. I wasn't going to, go have a beer with them per se, but we were both professional enough to be able to say, hey, our personal feelings we leave them outside, and we have a job to do on this field, but no, I mean, when you have that feeling, that camaraderie feeling, like you're gonna work that much harder for each one of you, because you believe in them, and you believe in what you're doing together.
Yeah, that's an aspect I really feel like I missed out on. Like I feel like when you win in that case with guys that you love playing on the field with, it's just got to feel like just that much better.
Yeah.
I wish I had the opportunity to experience that, but maybe in the future when I can go find some team sport that I can play.
Hey, you had doubles tennis. You had something.
That's doubles tennis isn't the same. It's not the same. All right, so back to Columbus. Year 3, accolades and accomplishments were out the roof. There was a 18-game unbeaten streak, Supporter Shield trophy, and MLS goalkeeper of the year finalist. One question we had on the 18-game unbeaten streak: is it exciting and motivating, or is there kind of like what's the right word? Like a daunting feeling of, oh no, like, is this the game where we break the streak kind of thing?
We honestly didn't talk about it that much. We didn't worry about it. You know, we knew we had a good team, and you know, our focus was to try to win every game we played, regardless of what streak we were on or weren't on. And so there wasn't really any talk about it. I think, if I remember correctly, more of those games I think ended up in ties than necessarily wins, but we knew we had a good team, and we knew that we were going to be in every game we played, and the streak would take care of itself. It wasn't really talked about.
Yeah, I could definitely imagine. Did you have any idea that there was like even an unbeaten streak going on at the time, or?
Yeah. I mean, you know it because it's in the paper, and
Mhm.
the outside people are talking about it, you know, so all the players knew about it, but it was, you know, it came down from, you know, the coaching staff that, look, it's not important to us. It's there, you know, like, you know, we're not going to pretend it's not there. We know it's there, but we're not going to focus on it and put our focus on, well, we got to keep the streak going. You know, we wanted to win games to win the Supporters Shield. That's what our focus was. And then obviously getting into the playoffs.
Right. On the goalkeeper of the year finalist, getting that accomplishment, how did it feel at the time to be mentioned for the likes of this award with some legendary names like Joe Cannon and Pat Onstad?
Yeah, it was awesome. Again, I didn't put much stock into it because, again, back then it wasn't like it is today, right? I mean, it wasn't all over Twitter or Instagram or all that, right? So there wasn't a lot made about it. I think I heard, you know, but the PR guy told me like, hey, you're one of the finalists. I'm like, okay, great. You know,
Cool.
but again, it's not like it is today where it's blasted everywhere. So, but again, for me, and you hit the nail on the head. I mean, Pat was one of the guys. He was playing for Rochester when I played in the USL. So I talked to him quite a bit, you know, before he went over to San Jose. Again, another fantastic gentleman, had a lot of time for me. I have all the time in the world for him. So to be mentioned in, you know, in the circle with him, and then obviously Joe Cannon, you know, Joe had an amazing career as well. Was just, you know, it was very flattering for me, especially that early in my MLS career.
Yeah, that was one of the cool things, is going back and when you do research for things like this and kind of seeing the list of names and how they change and how, you know, legends are born per se, right? Like you see, okay, they're in there one time, and then you see 4 times after. It's like, oh, this is when it kicked off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this